If you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or get involved in the conversation on social media. Join the Pearl Jam Podcast community group on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at liveonfourlegspod.
We were practicing in the backstage tonight, and I had a guitar on, this guitar, and I had a little amp, and I went to grab the metal door handle, and all of a sudden I was electrocuted like you wouldn't fucking believe. True story. Do you not believe me? Any of you want to try it? In the end, it feels kind of incredible. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I've had like 3 times. So we get electricity from you. You go ahead and start the song. That'd be great. Okay. Electricity from the crowd is great, but I got electricity right from like 110 volts of Amsterdam's best flowing through me right now. So I'm here to share it with you. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Gentlemen! Mama Queen! Matt fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. This week is taking us to 2018, the final tour year of the 2010s. And 2017, 2019 don't exist in this band's catalog outside of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. So 2018 is kind of this weird island in between years where the band is completely silent. And we're kind of going through one of those years right now where nothing is going on until the one show that's going to happen in September actually happens. And there will be a lot of buzz and a lot of discussion to be had when that goes on for sure. But it's really a standalone year. It was strange, and there was definitely hype around it. There was definitely good things. There was definitely odd things. And those kind of all fit within the storylines from what this tour year brought. So, I mean, I think the two most important things are the Home Away Show series, where they raised over $10 million to fight homelessness in Seattle. Those were the home shows with Montana and Wrigley thrown into the mix and Fenway thrown into the mix. And there's also an amazing show that happened in Rome. And then there's kind of the ugly, if that was the good, maybe the bad is mixed in a little bit, but the ugly is Ed losing his voice in London and having to postpone a show till the end of that tour. It kind of made me think at the time that it was the beginning of the end, that it was like, are we entering our geriatric years? And I know I used the term geriatric, and I think my lovely co-host over here has told me a bunch of times, no, it's just, they're not geriatric. It just
golden years. The golden
years. Right. And I use geriatric because it's kind of, when you see it and when you see all the cancellations, it's kind of like, they needed more recovery time. That's just the truth of the matter. They're in good shape. Ed's in good shape physically, but the strain on his voice finally got to that point where all that time screaming from 1995 on and all that finally broke down and something needed to be done. And I think we saw it a little bit last week when we did 2016 that there was some wear and tear there. There were good nights, there were bad nights on the 2016 tour, but 2018 kind of showed that Ed was human, if anything else, that he was vulnerable to all of what can happen to a lead singer after all that time, nearly 30 years. So those are kind of the storylines, and we'll talk about those things as well as the Amsterdam Night 2 show from this year. So why don't we just jump into all of it? Randy Sobel over here, Javier Hervas over there.
Well, hello, my friend. Super excited that we're going to see each other in person, not over a camera, in a little bit more than 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're gonna we're gonna
finally.
we're
Live on
gonna get
Four
going
Balls
around.
trip.
I know we're gonna get going in the Midwest. Couple of things that we need to point out before we start, though. Hey guys, if you want to join us, I think there's enough information in social media. It will be fun just to see people around. We're going to be in a few ballparks. I'm not a baseball expert by all means. No, I'm just there for the ride. I'm going to enjoy. Always enjoy like a good view and a good game. But yeah, if you want to stop by and say hello, you're more than welcome to. Second thing is we saw Ed at the USA Belgium game. He made a new meaning out of the hydration break, which totally fucking sucks if you ask me because it's not needed. But we know that he's healthy and he can still chug a beer. And congratulations to the States for a good run in the World Cup. Congratulations to Argentina this morning. That was out of this world. Turn around a match in 15 minutes.
How are
That was
they
just like,
still alive?
I know, man.
It's
I just
ridiculous.
something is special about them.
Yeah.
Um And going back to those years, I guess it's one of those first years where, like you were saying, we started to notice that actually the band is human and that they need a little bit more rest time, and a couple of issues that started to arise. And then, if I remember this right, too, it was one of the first years where you was listening and reading stuff about the members saying like, hey, yeah, we might need to get the set a little shorter, maybe it's getting too physical for us, which is something that around that time is just like crazy for a fan just to think that maybe the set will be shorter. But 2018 was the first year where unfortunately we started to see that actually it is real, it is within the scope that actually the band can cancel the show because of health issues. Then we had COVID, then we had voice issues or whatever they were, you may find. But it's kind of like a reminder that they're like humans and they go through struggles, and it's okay for them just to push stuff away or take a little extra time in between shows. I mean, it's an interesting year. It's kind of like the end of this era where part of the conversation that we were having before we started to record is that we both noticed that maybe there's a little bit of lack of something that we're going to be talking throughout the show. But there's songs to cover, there's news to cover too. Ohana's coming. There's a lot of expectation related to that. We're going to get to know the new drummer. We are going to be able to witness how the band is going to be their new version with a new drummer, because it's removing the heart and it's putting a new heart in. So
Yeah.
how that's going to function, you know?
It'll be fascinating. And I haven't really kind of wrapped my head fully around it. I think my brain right now is just like, okay, we'll see. I can't control any of it. I can't, and neither can you, and neither can you listening. You can't control any of it. I trust the band's instincts. I will say, I trust the band's instincts. Whatever happens, I think there will be some sort of curve, and we will get to learn which songs this new person works really well with, which songs maybe, not quite. We'll get to find out what the catalog looks like. That's exciting to me. I want to see if there's a drastic shift. That's my biggest storyline, because they could come out at Ohana and it could be pretty close to like a greatest hit set. That show is going to be highly prepped for. Like, it's going to be scripted almost. That I will say
Mhm.
that, because they're going to be practicing for that one show and that's it. And yeah, some of it'll be based off of feel, but there's nothing coming afterwards. So why is this new drummer gonna learn, I don't know, like retrograde or something when that's not going to be one of the 24 or 25 songs that they end up with on the set list? So they're preparing for it. And I think a lot of what they're going to prepare for is whatever this drummer is familiar with. And it's stuff like Better Man. It's stuff like Alive. It's stuff like Even Flow. So I think they take it easy at first. I don't think there's a lot of surprises outside of The Who. And no, that's not that is not a subtle pun right there, because I'm not trying
Who?
to say Zach Starkey is the new drummer at all. But if you want to take it as that, then that's kind of a fun one. But yeah, that's all I really got on it for right now. And I think we'll repeat that about 5 more times in the weeks leading up to it. So let's dig back into 2018 though, because there were some points that you made were really kind of valid there. And I think the one that I want to harp back on, because we did talk about Ed losing his voice and the struggle that he went through, I think it's the set list for sure. That was the biggest change. And it wasn't every night, it wasn't massive. You also have to think that some of these European places that they played, where they're headlining an arena show as opposed to a festival show, because they think they kind of went back and forth a lot that year. European shows always seem to have a very strict curfew, and they always seem to kind of abide by that. I think the only one that really has never had much of a curfew is Berlin. I think Berlin has always gone on pretty long, and maybe London, but like places like Amsterdam, and then when you get to more Eastern European places like Hungary and Poland and Norway, I think those places have those kind of curfews. So seeing a one encore 27 song set in 2018 feels surprising, but in hindsight, shouldn't surprise anybody at all because of the factors that went into play. But I remember when we were going through and watching the live streams and seeing it all go down, I thought it was very strange that it kind of all unraveled almost abruptly. And I'm just hearing a live come through, and I'm like, oh no, where's the rest of it? Nowadays, you don't think twice, because that encore, I believe, is like a 9 or 10 song encore, which is pretty good for nowadays. But still, we weren't ready for it yet. We weren't ready for it, and it kind of threw most of us for a loop. But then you have shows like Rome that are 35 songs and 3+ hours long. So you get a little bit of give and take here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just kind of hard to get used to the new normal. Me included. There were so many fans out there that you were like, I don't know how I feel about this, and you kind of get this sense of disappointment. But again, I've said it so many times. I think we are pretty lucky that we're talking about a band that, in average, is going to play 27, 28 songs per night. But it's also a lot about feel. I've noticed that around those years too, even though that there's a more shorter structure, you have sets like Rome, you have other sets that maybe you go beyond the 30 plus mark. And it's something that maybe the band, like, it was really, really feeling tight and they just want to continue to play. But there was a lot of kind of like this sense of concern about, like, oh my God, are they going to split? Like, what are we doing here? Because we're not getting our normal sets. There's 30 plus, which again, I think 2018 is one of those years where we started to realize that actually they're going to struggle physically and we're going to have maybe more cancellations than we would like to have. Because before that, it was a very rare occasion that the band will cancel for something that it was beyond a weather issue or something that it was against the safety of the crowd. And
Last year in 2025 was the only year since 2018 where they didn't have a show canceled.
See, and
That's
that's
kind of
an
crazy,
excellent.
right?
It
And I'm
is an
not counting
excellent example.
2021 because there's only 4 shows there.
Right. It's an excellent example. And I think the sense of control also that the band likes to have when it comes to arena settings is very important to them because they can feel that they can deliver a really good show with not necessarily a huge crowd that is going to make them feel like they have to be paying attention consistently. Because even if you go back in time and when you start to see like 2010 or 2014 or other festivals or other years, you can really notice that the band is just like paying attention to what's going on. And I think that also affects the way that they perform and they deliver in the stage. The arena setting, even in Europe, they can go and they can probably fill out bigger arenas or stadiums, even though that a couple of years ago, unfortunately, we had a few examples that they struggle with that. Is something that I think they prefer just because of they want to have that sense of security under their hands.
I want to mention before we get into the set too that there was a little bit of a false alarm in 2018, and that false alarm happened right before those South American shows took place. And the false alarm comes in the announcement of the brand new song Can't Deny Me. And I remember the language. It was coming from the forthcoming record, this song, and it was very clear that people were very much divided on it. And I wonder if they kind of knew it might cause a little division. So if they said it's from the next record, build up some hype, but then they're like, wait a minute, maybe they don't want this on the next record. Let's go in a different direction. So they waited until another 2 years to put out the record without that song, which I actually asked Mike about that when he did a Reddit AMA. And he said, yeah, that was never supposed to be on the record. That was supposed to be a one off. But it was the verbiage that kind of made us think that we were getting it out on the spot. But anyway, we're going to get that song in this set, so we'll talk all about it. We never get a chance to because this is the only year that it will ever appear, I'm sure. So
Mm-hmm.
let's jump into it right now. We got a nice 1-2 combo off the top, it being release into present tense, and release has a slow plodding beginning. It's going to ease you in more than slap you with the immense power. So check it out.
Oh, dear dad, oh, can you see this now? I am myself like you somehow. I ride the wave where it takes me. I hold the pain, release
So he changes the line in release to "Oh, Kevin's dad," and I'm just gonna bring that up here as a teaser because I think we'll talk about that a little bit more later, and maybe talk about who Kevin might be because I have some thoughts and maybe a theory behind it. But he does come up later, so the song stays relatively in the pocket, and I think Matt is kind of trying to find ways to add in some fills throughout this, but I did not see right away from release that it had this big, uplifting, empowering moment out of it. It's so rare to feel like that song is just kind of there and just in the set and existed, but it did not seem like it went that extra mile. And I think right away you can tell that the band is coming off a little uneasy.
Yeah, I get that because when I was listening to the show too, it made me feel like it was more like a preset song. It's kind of like a warm up before that you go into stage. I don't know why, but I never got that sense of that uplifting kind of communal thing that the song will give you. Also, something that I noticed along the show, and you guys are going to notice whenever you listen to it in the first couple of songs, is that Matt is struggling with the tempo. He's really trying to find the happy place or the groove or the pocket that the band needed to be at, because there are a few examples like after this one that you're going to notice that he goes a little slower than usual, and in other ones he tries to kind of push a little further, but there was this sense of maybe they're not there comfort level wise. By the way, Randy, this is a sad day to celebrate too, because
Oh,
the night that we're recording this
yeah, it's a 1 year anniversary
is a 1 year
of.
anniversary where Matt Cameron announced that he was out of Pearl Jam. So it still fucking sucks. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's been quick. I'm still not okay with it.
We
But
gotta get you to the turnaround, man. Just
yeah,
let
I
the
know. I
memories
know.
be memories, you know?
Yeah, I'll get there. But going back to what we're talking about release, it feels just a sense of that the band is not 100% comfortable and they're trying to find a spot. They're trying to find some sort of groove that maybe they couldn't find till later on. But the 1-2 combo, the song selection was very, very surprising to me. I mean, it makes sense because they're both in the key of D, and Ed has said in a few interviews that sometimes he will hum the songs, especially the endings, to try to see if they match.
Mm.
So it makes sense. But I thought that we were going to have maybe like a more fluid transition in between release and present tense, which is number 2 song for the set.
You can see in a lot of what you were saying there about the band not being comfortable, there is a moment in present tense where Mike just kind of stops for a second. And because there's nothing in the background, there's no tempo or anything, it
Yeah.
just feels like almost a
Weird.
total mistake. It's really strange. And then in the background, like a verse or so later, you can hear Ed say, "What the fuck was that?" Like, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Have you an idea on how your life ends? Checked your hands and studied your lies. Have you the belief that
The song finds its extra gear, brings you to the level, revving up the crowd and getting them invested in the show. It does the trick, but I think it kind of, like you were saying, showed that there were cracks in the armor this show very early on. And some performances really stuck together and they landed, but I think there's going to be a couple that feel like this, that feel like maybe it's broken up a little bit, that maybe the band just wasn't gelling. And like we mentioned earlier, with all of Ed's vocal problems, as being 2 shows later that he'll have to go through what he went through in London, I think you're able to hear some of Ed's struggle that led to that in this show. I think you're clearly able to hear it. So, Animal, Last Exit is the next section. Ed's voice is not off to a great start in Animal. He's very labored. And you'd think if you're there in the moment, beginning of the tour, okay, you get it, but also you know what took place. So it's a deeper issue. That's what it is. It's a deeper issue at that time. And Last Exit, I hear the strain in there too. And, it's played a little slower than we're used to, but it's still, I feel like the band is trying to catch up with themselves and sort of figure out what pace they should be at for the night. Like Animal and Last Exit in a set should be blowing you back, and Barn Burners. The first 4 songs really should be perfect.
Mhm.
And none of them truly land like they should. I think Present Tense have some good moments at the end, really mellow groove at the end of that song, but these four should be at the top of their game, and none of them do. I hate that I'm saying it, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what saves Animal is the solo at the end, which is an absolutely fantastic solo. But even Mike at the end, because he starts the solo with the classic riff that he will take from the original recording. But even after that, like you can kind of tell that he's just like, oh, where do I need to go with the solo now?
Right.
Like, should I continue? Should I not continue?
When you're thinking out there, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't have to be thinking.
Correct. Correct. And that's the first indication that maybe they were not feeling whatever they need to feel that night. But I wanted to address something before we move on, because one of the things that makes Matt Cameron so great is that the fact that, I don't know if you guys knew this, but he doesn't play with a click. He doesn't play with a metronome. He doesn't have something on his ear telling him the tempo that he needs to go. And that's why he was so great at what he does. And also, we're hearing that Ed is starting to maybe show a little bit of wear and tear. And then, as you guys know, what happened later on in London is a already known story. But bacteria in your throat can incubate for 3 to 5 days without showing any symptoms until the first symptom. So I wouldn't be surprised if he already got it and he's just struggling with it, or he doesn't show any symptoms whatsoever.
Right. You can just kind of shake it off as, all right, that didn't feel great, but I've had worse kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Dr. Javi uh, reporting in ways that we don't expect them to sometimes. We don't get the health report out of you, just the health of the guitar sounds. That's about it.
Don't take my advice. I wouldn't even take my own advice. Just saying.
You're just a doctor. You play one on a podcast.
Right.
Ed says, good evening. How do you really feel? We were practicing backstage. I had this little guitar and amp and went to grab a metal door handle, and all of a sudden I was electrocuted like you wouldn't believe. It's a once in a lifetime experience that happened to me 3 times. That was 110 volts of Amsterdam's best flowing through me right now. So what do you got? Obviously, wordplay for the next song leading into Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt half full, Untitled MFC. We're going to gel them all together here. I thought the band sounded better on Lightning Bolt, and I think they had a moment at the end that sounded really, really good and had some electricity to it, but I think it kind of had the same vibe as the one that we heard last week that opened up that Ottawa show, that it was just a little slow and chunky in the beginning and didn't quite find its groove until a little bit later. Ed was rough on it. Mike was spectacular, but song sort of made for a good moment. I half full is barely in sets at this point, but Riot Act seemed to have sort of a comeback in 2018. Like, some of these songs are getting played more often than you think. Like, Green Disease got played a couple of times. We'll talk about that song in a second or two. You Are, I think, got played 4 times. We got Thumbing My Way. That was the only time I seen Thumbing My Way in Fenway. Save You a couple times. I Am Mine a couple times. Like, it was a healthy year for Riot Act. And I think that's what made me go back to some of the other years, like 2023, where I'm like, this is going to be a good year for Avocado. And it ended up being a good year for Avocado. We got Marker in the Sand and Comatose back and Severed Hand a couple times. And it's, I think, when it becomes 15 years since they released something, they start to get a little homesick about it. And they're like, all right, we like these songs. Come back to us. And in 2018, Ed's going to do Riot Act relevant things, except with a different president.
Yeah, we're going to play the Harry Potter card here, and we're going to say the one who shall not be named, just because we don't want to give any propaganda. He had too much about the freaking red card with the USA player. But anyways, that's a different thing. Because whatever he touches, he ruins. Something that I wanted to address here too in this segment, I really noticed that the band noticed that it was like, "Ooh, our guy's struggling a little bit. Like we need to step up." Because the examples you were giving, like mic solos in half full, or like that very electrical ending on Lightning Bolt, but the background singing in the way that the rest of the musicians, they start to show support, kind of like "We Got You, Dude." It's pretty cool to hear, because Untitled, MFC, like they're really stepping up, and they're noticing that they might have to sing a little bit more, or in the engineering crew also, like, well, there's some songs that we'll have to turn up the volume for the guys and maybe like get a little bit of it in the back, which is fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah. I like the performance of Half Full, but I think it was overshadowed a little bit by how good Untitled and MFC were. Untitled was the first song that really felt like it brought me in and gave me a moment to attach to the show. There's some different lyric changes here, maybe mirroring the transportation more often used in Amsterdam, like trains and things like that. And it's very, very well done.
There's a train, and I gotta pass. Oh, let's get out of here. Get out of here fast. Everyone's confused. They're all stuck in their rooms. I wanna go, but I don't want to go alone. I hope you'll get this message, for you're not home. I will try again in 23 minutes or so. Let's go to Groningen. It's a place called Vera. I wanna go, but I don't want to go alone.
The crowd is really on top of it, give this big clapping section for the beginning of MFC. And the combo is a highlight at this show. And like you said, the vocal harmonizations towards the end of MFC sound fantastic. And they know that they gotta step it up. And not just that, but Stone always has that solo at the end. That solo rides it into the sunset and sounds really, really, really good at this one. So the band is starting to take another step forward with these performances.
Sliding right over some of the drum dance. We'll be turning right down straight, walking the sunset real right. She can remember a time that I stood by the side of the road and she was out on her own in my eye. There's no leaving here. That's come again. She's disappeared.
It says, raise a toast to one of my best friends here tonight, Mike McCready, standing right there. When Mike was young, he said to his mom, when I grow up, I want to be a guitar player. And she was very sensible. She said, Mike, you have to choose. You either grow up or you become a guitar player. You can't do both. Except for in this case, he did. And that's your cue into Even Flow, which I'm going to package into Light Years as well.
Yeah, I think the main point for me in Even Flow is how riffy the solo is, which it makes it rare, because usually the attack is a little different. It's more creating this kind of like suspense, and then like being very aggressive and flashy with the solo and the harmonics and the pentatonic scales and all that stuff that he always utilizes so well. But even though that he's a complete outside of the box thinker for songs like this, because you never know what you're gonna get, because whenever he connects with whatever he's connecting with, you will get the solo, right? I love the riffy approach that he took here. It forces in a really good way to Jeff and Stone to play a little different, and not necessarily to be as pronounced in kind of like the rhythm section. It's just more playing with Mike, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just kind of have like a combination of what the three of them are doing in the solo instead of leaving it to
Right.
Mike to take the stage all to himself. Because we say it all the time, like Mike sounds tremendous, but how many times have we come on this podcast, even in the last like month or two, and said Stone sounds unbelievable in even flow, and it doesn't get a lot of play out there because Mike is obviously an all-world talented guitar player, but when Stone puts up that like dirty riff that he has on it, it just takes you away and you're drawn to it. And live is probably a little bit different than the bootleg because you're watching the spotlight go and you're watching the head, hang back and the eyes close and maybe the guitar behind the back and all that, and it's a show. But when you're on the bootleg and your ear is trying to gravitate, that right side for Stone is quite nice for versions of even flow like this. So yeah, I get what you're saying there, and I like how there was a little bit more of a collaboration we don't get to see very often. Before Light Years, this is where we get into Green Disease conversation. Ed asked the band if they remember how to play Green Disease. They start riffing on it a little bit, and it's because there's a shirt in the crowd that had it requested. Now, this would not be the last time, and I don't have the information whether it was the same people, but who would be surprised if it wasn't the same people? In Krakow or London, I can't remember which one, but these two girls wrote Green Disease on their foreheads, and that's what convinced them to play it. It might have been London. Was it the London show?
I think so, yes.
Okay. That was immediate way for Ed to be like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Sometimes your requests get taken and sometimes they get totally ignored. Green Disease kind of into Light Years. And I think Light Years, I think it's kind of connected with Kevin's dad, who they mentioned before, which I'm not going to go quite there to my theory on that just yet. But whenever there is some sort of tribute to somebody who passed, there's 3 songs that are almost guaranteed to be in a set, and one of them is Release, and the other one is Light Years, and the other one is one that will come later. So it does make a whole lot of sense that they play it at the show, kind of like a beginning, middle, and an end thing too. But it's got its rough moments. The band seamlessly finds their way out of trouble in the first verse, as it felt like Matt did that jump back in way too early. That do, and like, but it's seamless where you hear that, but it just feels like a fill. Like, that feels impossible to do.
Jokes about war, I figured out numbers and what they're for. I've understood feelings and I've understood words, but how can you be taken away?
I mean, if you don't know the song, you wouldn't think that you made a mistake. You would have think of that's a fill. That's a pretty cool fill for the song, yeah.
Right. I mean, if it was natural, if you like found a way to interpret it, we'd be like, oh, okay. Just a little bit more on timing and a little bit less I fucked up, then we could have had something there. But it had energy and it had the feeling behind it, even though there's a little sloppiness wrapped inside. I mean, you can still have a good sandwich with some crust hanging off your bread, or some meat not rolled in a way that you want to eat. I don't know, like maybe the mustard's not spread equally to all sides. I don't know. It's not a great sandwich comparison here, but
What about the mustard not equally spread out in a hot dog? Maybe one of the ones that we'll get at one of these stadiums. No? Okay, move on.
Are you a mustard on hot dog guy?
I mean, the hot dog by itself is bad enough. You gotta eat it with something.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me started about pretzels, because that's a different conversation.
Whoa, yeah. What do you got against pretzels?
Everything. They shouldn't exist.
What?
They're awful.
I feel like we had this conversation before.
We have, yes. And I
what
still hate pretzels.
What's the matter with you? Pretzels?
They're awful. It's like a piece of like very old bread with a different color that you just eat. It has no flavor.
Okay, I get that you live in Iowa, but have you had good pretzels before?
I think I've had pretzels, and they all taste the same.
Well, not like store brand pretzels. You're talking about like a pretzel from a ball game kind of pretzel.
Right. Like they all suck. Yeah, they all suck.
There's some good. I had a good one, I think a weekend or two ago. That was like really pillowy, and it did not feel like day old bread. You don't have an Auntie M's in your mall?
I don't know. And if we do, I will never eat a pretzel there. Because I hate pretzels. That's the thing.
It's literally all they have.
Yeah, exactly. What if we find a place that maybe I can change my mind about pretzels on this trip? How about that?
Okay. We'll put that on the itinerary. Find pretzel for hobby. Yeah.
Okay. Noted.
I mean, we're already like don't have a lot of minutes to spare, but I think we can find a pretzel for you.
Yeah. We'll figure it out to see if I can change my mind, but highly doubt it. Anyways.
Okay, well, we've been wrapped up in knots here, and we're a little salty. So here Ed talks about there's a school being nearby their hotel, and we've been woken up by the sound of kids screaming and laughing. And even when you're jet lagged, there's something pure about that sound that you don't seem to mind. But in the States, you hear that sound and it's like, are they safe out there? So many issues with fucking guns in the US. Holland has been a beacon of responsibility with freedoms like smoking weed, and it was commonplace and legal. And I suppose owning automatic weapon is a responsibility, but they're failing at it in the US. They're failing at it. It so often ends up in the wrong hands on a weekly basis and just has to stop. They say it's an issue about freedom to have a firearm, but it's the freedom to not be in fear of one that we need to get in place. I don't think that I always say that because of that quote, but I do always say that if you're free to have a firearm, then, well, my kids should be free to go to their school without fearing that someone with a firearm could come in there. And yeah, so that will lead you into a gun happy song, I suppose, Glorified G, and then Can't Deny Me. And then I'm going to attach on Mind Your Manners and Unthought Known at the end. Okay, let's talk about Glorified G before we get into anything else. I don't love Mike's tone on Glorified in this. And I'm going to say this, and I want to know if you agree with me. There's something kind of 2009 sounding about this. Do you agree?
Yeah. I was going to say I can see that, but I can hear it. So, Gretsch guitars have something called the treble bleed, but sometimes if they're not fully wide open, when in this case the overdrive towards the top, it feels more like a palm muted guitar. So sometimes it's going to give you that impression that like the whole wide of tone that you can get out of the instrument is not there. But it's a trick that you have to utilize, because otherwise it might get too dirty for what he wants to get, but it's a limitation of the instrument itself, if that makes sense.
No, but I get you. I know that it makes sense to you, so in turn that'll make sense to me, because I trust your word on it. But okay, it just sounded, I guess, to me like a flat distortion.
Yeah, you feel that you don't have like the entire spectrum. Like you feel that you're missing something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
Totally
that's
agree
what
with that.
happens when sometimes like you utilize the volume knob too much. It kind of like it bleeds out the tone out of the instrument, and it went out. It feels like this is a really good example of that.
Yeah. All right. I can see that. Also, another like small thing in Glorified G, Ed's choice to sing the "I Can Steal Your Heart from Your Neck" is in a bit of a lower octave is interesting, and I'm wondering if he's really feeling it at this point, because that's not really one of those talk sing kind of moments, unless he does the "Here We Go," which he did not do. Then after Glorified G, kind of tying these two songs together, he makes a big claim that Canton Ivy has nothing to do with Trump and says, how does it feel to have a world leader that insults all of your allies and people with good intentions represented, but gets along swimmingly with dictators and despots? And I don't think he's crazy like a fox, but crazy like a narcissistic motherfucker. And yeah, nothing's changed. So I got nothing to really say about that. Just okay. Yep. Great. He does what he does. And some people grovel at his feet, and other people just aren't sure what to do with their lives anymore because we have to keep talking about him. I hate that sometimes on this podcast we give him free publicity because he doesn't fucking need it. So maybe he really should be he who shall not be named. And anytime there is a moment with him, maybe we should just not give it the time of day anymore because I'm sick and fucking tired of it. He just doesn't need to be on a Pearl Jam podcast. He could be everywhere else, not here. So, fuck it, not mentioning him anymore. I do want to talk about Canton Ivy, though, because we did kind of talk about it a little bit earlier, but let's kind of go a little bit deeper into that. I thought it came out to pretty mixed reviews in 2018, and I was not a huge fan of it. I think I tried to be a fan at first because I think it was just exciting to have new music, but right away the one thing that got me was fucking cash register sound effects. It's just so cheesy. It felt really stupid to me. And the cowbell was corny as well. Like, it just felt like Olay in the way that they might have thought that they were taking a song seriously, but they were having too much fun doing it and went overboard. And this is their last song of the 2010s. And thankfully, I don't think we've seen any 2020 song that they've written that's anywhere like this. I think they might have realized that, these songs aren't that good. Maybe we'll quit playing them. But it just was 2010s their worst decade for writing music? I mean, with the two songs, and you haven't even said your piece on Canton Ivy yet, but I know how you feel about Olay. But with those two songs, it just seems like if those are their two worst songs, then you'd have to say the 2010s were just not the best for Pearl Jam's songwriting, even though they do have great songs and great lyrics from this era. But it's marred by all this.
Yeah, I will have to say that I agree with that statement. I'm not a fan of Can't Deny Me. I think the idea behind Can't Deny Me is great. But for some reason, I always remember around this time when I heard that there was a new single coming out. For some reason, I felt that the song was a little rushed. Everything that it was behind this song, that it was trying to be supported in the message. It's great because it's something that is needed. It's something that those changes, unfortunately, you like it or not, I think they are a must, that it needs to be discussed and it needs to be put on the table to finally figure it out. But when you have this kind of exposure of a song that it was so short because it was a quick release, everybody got it out, They didn't have a lot of dates. I remember that they played the song in South America for the first time. It got a warm welcome from the crowd, but then it kind of get diluted over time, and I feel that the message was not translated in the right way. One of the most poignant things for me, I remember in Lollapalooza in Brazil, I remember that Ed says like, instead of big fucking guns, like why you don't just want to have like a big fucking amp and play guitar loud like Mike McCready used to do and Stone used to do, and he's trying to drive the message towards maybe finding a new way of inspiration towards this influence over gun culture and all that kind of stuff. But I just feel that there was a good idea behind it. Maybe it was not the best execution. I'm always going to try to give them a little bit of credit because it's a song that it had a sample loop in the back, the sound money going back and forth, like the cowbell and everything. But yeah, I think the message at the end got lost in translation, and it was a little bit more like of an important meaning, I think, to my taste.
You know, Pearl Jam and Bruce Springsteen had opportunities in times in this country where we probably needed a really big time political anthem with bite, with promise, with power. And I feel like both kind of failed to live up to that expectation. When that Streets of Minneapolis song came out that Bruce did a couple months ago, I
Uh-huh.
think we right away were talking about how it felt like Bruce's version of Can't Deny Me. It was rushed. It felt like another song that he had already written, and it just felt cheap. That's what it is. It just comes off as cheap. And that's not the kind of music that Pearl Jam or Bruce write. And it's also not the kind of music that you need to write when you need to lift up a nation grieving. So I'll say that. So Mind Your Manners and Unthought Known at the end of this. I don't have a lot, but Mind Your Manners is kind of in that strange spot late in the set. Weird momentum, especially going into Unthought Known, and it kind of feels like they need this song to be a buffer to be like, hey, we have 2.5 minutes. What can we play that's 2.5 minutes? Well, we play Minor Manners every night, so throw it in there. It wasn't the best decision, and it kind of sounded a little not to its best ability there. And yeah, Unthought, I didn't have a whole lot of Unthought Known on it either. It just like I think you probably could have had Can't Deny Me into Unthought Known, and it might have felt a little bit more uplifting, but Mind Your Manners is weird there. You know, it's a strange spot. But the next section has Inside Job, Interstate Evolution, and Porch. Like that to me works really well because Inside Job is one of those songs. It's like kind of that big emotional powerhouse before getting you into exciting stuff or the end of a set or the encore or something like that. Like this 4-song combination right here could have easily been in an encore one and nobody would have batted an eye. But yet it's used at the base of a main set and still is powerful and fantastic out there. I thought this kind of momentum shift was really, really needed at the end.
When you have songs like Inside Job where they have like this such emotional weight, it leaves you riding the wave pretty high. So no matter what comes after, I think you're always going to be super invested in.
Underneath this smile lies everything. All my hopes and anger, pride and shame. I make myself a pact not to shut doors on the past just for today. Oh, I am free. I will not lose my faith. It's an inside job. today. Oh, I know this one thing.
But when you have Inside Job, State, Evolution, and then going up to Porch, State feels like a quick taste, but I really want to stay with Evolution because you hear kind of like, all right, the South American portion of we're going to try to push the crowd to see if they can do it, you know?
But it wasn't like fully prominent. It didn't feel like it took the whole building over. And I don't know if that's a mixed thing because I know that, this show was voted as the representation for 2018. And I didn't agree with it at first. I probably still don't. But people were saying that it had, Amsterdam has great crowds. People were saying that the crowd was great and that it was part of the show. And maybe it's just the mix that doesn't help that aspect at all. And maybe it's the building that does. But those South American chants didn't feel as pulsating as some others do. I mean, sometimes people will get it and they'll latch onto it right away, and then sometimes it takes a little bit. So I get that it's a tough ask, but at this point, everybody should fucking know and do it every single time. But I have very high expectations for maybe a group that shouldn't have. I have high expectations for. I don't know.
But Randy, to be fair with your point too, you said something very interesting about so many people in the audience were like, all right, you guys should cover Amsterdam, and maybe we're feeling that it was hard to stay engaged on the show. But to your point, sometimes the take of the boot or YouTube, whatever you watch or listen to, it's not going to do justice in the way that it felt in the arena or in the building. Maybe we're not actually capturing what the audience really was or how the band was sounding that night, because if I go back to one of the comments that we said when we started the recording, if the band is going to notice that they need to step up a little bit more, I will be very intrigued in how they're going to be sounding in this kind of building. And maybe we're not getting that over the recording.
Very possible, yeah. Very possible. Also, in this, I mean, you got to mention that Porch is part of this set and still such a massive hit with the crowd. I think it was played every single night in 2018. This is the final year of the Orbs, so I think we're getting it at the end of the main set every single night, if not, 25 of the 26 shows or something like that. Maybe one night they decided to close Encore 1 with it. I have no idea, but it was happening a lot. And also, if you are able to hear, Ed name drops New Dragons somewhere, like in between Evolution and Porch, and that gets me excited because I love that anagram. So now we're at the encore, so let's pause for station identification. And we'll talk about Patreon, and Javi mentioned it earlier in the show. We are merely days away from our big time trip. That's going to take 11 full total days. If you include the ones that I'm not even on, starting in Philly, and then the first Dave show at SPAC. This is just, I'm just really happy we're doing this and happy we're getting to see everybody because, like, the tour shouldn't be an excuse for all of us to see each other, right? It should just be like, we're going to do this, but we should find more time to spend because this is we're friends outside of the fact that we all have a band as our number one common bond. Like, Javi, this is mostly a baseball road trip, but you said it. You're not going specifically for the baseball. And baseball is just there. So, I mean, most of us that are going absolutely love baseball, and I'm not going to put that in the back seat at all. But we're going because we all share another common bond. And we're going as an excuse to spend time with one another and be in the car with each other for, what feels like 7 hours at a time. I'm sure what will, driving up to Minneapolis from St. Louis or something like that. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to be kind of a lifelong destination kind of trip that I have been waiting to do something like this for a very long time. I did it by myself, just a baseball stadium trip, because I felt like I had to stop waiting on everybody else to say yes, and I had to just do it myself. So I have memories, but like I think I've said on the podcast before with shows that I've went to by myself, like the memories aren't as prominent if you don't share them with somebody, because then you can bounce off those memories off each other. Like that's what it's supposed to be about. So no tour this year, but we're finding ways to make it happen. And since there will be no baseball next year, hopefully there is music next year, because we'd want to do another baseball tour, but if there is no baseball because of lockout and owners being stingy and wanting a cap, then maybe Pearl Jam will say, let's play all 30 ballparks. How beautiful would that be? Or at
Yeah,
least
that'll be
play like the three they usually play.
yeah, that'll be very beautiful, but also very dangerous for the budget. Hopefully,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we got to balance both.
Yeah. And that's why, perfect segue into Patreon here. You can help us balance our budget for this trip and possibly an Ohana trip. I'm still working, I'm still chiseling. But I think we're going to try and make something happen here. And after I make something happen, we'll try to convince Javi to make something happen. So it's all part of the budget. All of the donations go into helping the show and helping us grow on the road, get the word out there, do our thing when it comes to pre show, when it comes to post show content, anything. That's what you guys live for. I know that. And I know that we've also been light on Patreon content this year. We really want to bring the spark back to the Patreon community, and we're definitely looking for ways to do that. So if you want to send us a donation, please head over to patreon.com/live on four legs. You can donate on a $3, $5, or $10 tier. It will help us tremendously as we go on this trip, and we will be very, very, very thankful for it. And maybe when we're out there, we'll get you a little souvenir from one of the ballparks. That could be a little perk for you guys. So if you like that, hey, anything can happen. So you can do that. You can go on the Patreon app and search for Live on Four Legs and subscribe over there, or you can go to liveonfourlegs.com and do the same thing.
We're in bilingual now. You have no more excuses not to go to Patreon. Like
This is true.
seriously, we are so excited about that too. More stuff is coming. We have had an amazing amount of feedback. A lot of really good stuff happening, opening doors for new communities and finding ways to connect. So more stuff is coming. We're going to continue those episodes and I'm super excited about those too. And yeah, you're going to see a lot of content that we're going to be putting out for that trip. I don't know if it's going to be interesting to spend 7 hours in a van with these guys, but we'll figure it out.
Well,
hopefully, we'll,
it'll at least be interesting.
hopefully, we'll still like each other a lot at the end of the trip. We'll see.
It'll be one or the other. We'll see if there's a podcast after July 26th. We'll have to record a couple to have some content in case we're just sick of each other and don't want to talk to each other for a few weeks. But yeah, actually, I think we are going to have some road content outside of the documentary that I'll be filming. So, hint, hint to that. I think we might record a full episode in the car. So, that excites you, then stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
All right, back to the rock. Ed comes back out with Jeff. He talks about what he's been drinking, and him and Jeff are going to share a drink because they always share a drink before they play this song. And then he talks about his daughter who turned 14, and he misses her so fucking much. She's graduating the 8th grade, and when she graduates high school and college, she'll be doing two things that I never did. I'll be watching graduation at 3 a.m., so we'll be up all night, and we got no plans to stop now. So this is one of our songs together. And that song, obviously, with him and Jeff being B Girl, Man of the Hour, Just Breathe, and Once are going to follow that. And I got a kind of a point off of what Ed said. I like that he tied in his daughter's graduation, because I actually have a tie-in with B Girl and graduation as well, because my niece just graduated high school about a month ago or two.
Hey,
And
congratulations.
yeah, I mean, she's gonna, she's got the whole world in front of her. She's gonna be great. She's got a really good head on her shoulder, and I'm just really excited to see what kind of woman she's gonna turn into. She's gonna be fantastic. So, and she's going to UCF, which is awesome. So go Knights. We are now Knights fans, which is pretty cool. I've never been a fan of a team called the Knights before. And there's one in hockey that I actually hate. So, anyway, there's a line from B Girl that, I don't know, I guess we were all like sitting down at dinner and we are all kind of sharing words of wisdom, whether she wanted to hear it or not. And I'm like, all right, I'll share you one thing. And this is the only thing I'm going to say to you, because I don't want to be like, oh, well, this, that, and that. And you got to remember this, and that. Because my dad did that to me. And I'm like, good God, none of this is ever going to stick. So I used one line from B Girl as her source of inspiration or just advice. And that is the line, those can be trusted can change their mind. I wanted her to specifically know that for a couple of reasons, but I just thought it was an interesting tie-in with B Girl and graduation that Ed said, so I wanted to mention it here. So, Man of the Hour is also dedicated to Kevin's dad. And now let's talk about Kevin and who Kevin could be. I really think that there may only be one, and I don't want to do like a full speculation of this because that would be wrong if this Kevin's father is alive. But for the band to go out and pay tribute to somebody like they did, it has to be somebody who means a whole lot to them, who they respect a whole lot. And it has to have a tie-in with not just Ed, but the rest of the band as well. I'm willing to think that it's Kevin Schuss, who is the Kevin that they're talking about here. And yes, I did Google Kevin Schuss's father to see if there was any information on an obit or anything like that. I couldn't find anything. And yeah, maybe that was going a little too far, but I don't know. Like, that feels like it could be right?
When I heard all the stuff about Kevin Randy, I thought about the same thing because then you go back to the band's history, and it will kind of be the only Kevin that it makes sense to me that it has like
Yeah,
that
there's
special connection or part of their crew that has been for so long, and especially because whenever he was mentioning the name, even in release or even right now in Man of the Hour, you can feel that Ed struggles a little bit
yes.
remembering that. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that will be the only name that it makes sense to me. That it will be unfortunately Kevin Show's dad.
He does seem kind of shaken up during the performance of Man of the Hour. He's kind of hiccuping through some lines a little bit. And I wonder if it was hard for him, because Ed is very much in touch with not just his own emotions, but the emotions of others. It felt like it was tough. And it couldn't have been somebody that was just like a passing friend if it was that tough. I'll say that. So just breathe and once follow the first two from the encore.
I think the band sounds great in this one, but you can clearly tell that Ed is gassed. There's something going on, as we already know. London After the Fact got canceled, but no, the band is good. The band is really pushing through, but yeah, he's struggling in this one. Because even if you move forward in time, you remember that after the issue in 2022, they were so cautious, even though you could tell that he was getting better. If it can be half step down tune, they were gonna go for it. And all the marking system, remember the red dots, the blue dots, and all that kind of
Mm.
stuff right next to the set lists. So it makes sense to me that they were trying to be conservative about that.
Well, yeah, his voice is having a hard time, yet the next two songs there would be Black and River Mirror. So obviously it's not bothering him that much, or he just doesn't care and can try and change on the fly a little bit and see what he gets out of it. But I didn't see any issues with these two songs, but tough to get them at full strength after the night that you're having. And I think we've talked about tags at the end of Black before. This version kind of made me want to go back to this conversation where Ed is saying here he's questioning the "we belong together." He's saying, "Did we belong? Did we belong together?" Instead of pleading for something that's unattainable, he's like looking back, assessing the situation, and treating it as a grown adult. And I think that's something. The other version that we talked about, "We Didn't Belong Together," was another popular one. So when you're going through this time, I think anytime that he does the "We Belong Together" specifically like that, I think it's just for nostalgia purposes at this point, because we all know what the tag from Unplugged was from all of 1992 was, where he would shriek that. And like that, it shows maturity and growth at this late age where he's able to look at it from a different scope.
Did we belong? Did we belong together? Together, together. Did we belong? Love together, love together. Did we belong?
And I've always believed that that tag was so powerful when you got the Unplugged, that there's always this special connection with that phrase and the tag with the audience. And I think it's more addressed towards maybe that was something that was felt around that time. But then as everybody has grown with the band too, maybe that sense of questioning may come after the fact too. You know, just creating that connection with the audience and maybe challenging that such a raw, pure emotion around that time maybe was not like that anymore. And that's part of growing. But I like the ending on this. I think it's a pretty mellow ending. This is a time where Stone was like playing a little bit more with his hands too, which I think is going to add a little bit more ring to it, to the guitar. And it's going to make it more like a very comfy bed that the band can rely upon.
What do you think about Rearview Mirror? This is a really fun groove in this one, with Ed doing the "I will forgive, won't forget" lyrics. The jam is very bouncy and light. The bass is even kind of light in a way where when it gets to that transition moment and you're doing the do 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 do, it's really the drums that kind of transition you out of the jam into the ending.
Yeah, and it was very Jeff driven. He was really leading with the bass notes, really good jamming. I didn't feel that the guitars were like a huge part of this. It was more like the atmosphere being created, and Matt and Jeff were really like leading the charge into this. I think they get to a point where kind of Matt has to lead them back into it. Kind of like, all right, I need to make a couple fills so I can kind of guide everybody just to get towards the exit so the band can kick in again. That's in the way that I felt it too.
there's a good extension on the ending. Those symbols feel like they last an eternity, but they're a really great transition into your bread and butter, which at this point, like getting alive at this, like you'd think Rear Mirror would end your Encore 1 in this situation. You come back out and you get like 5 or 6 more songs, and that's not the case. I think it was a tough pill to swallow at the time because we were so used to the formula that they had perfected for so long. And I remember maybe watching this or maybe following the set list on Live Footsteps, that seeing a live after Rear Mirror made me think, oh, they're finishing? This is it? This is over? Like, it feels a little cheap compared to what they've done. Now, I feel like personally I've gotten over that, and I've understood why they can't go into 2 or even 3 encores anymore. It's pretty simple reason, because
The golden years.
yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's pretty much it. You want them to last for longer in the marathon instead of the sprint. And I'm okay taking that every single time. There's some people that aren't. There's some people that hate that they don't do more every night because they
Hmm.
think the disparity doesn't really change that. It just felt overall strange. And I don't think we were ready for it at the time. But thankfully, they were still doing longer sets that year to where you weren't bothered by it as much. So it really didn't matter. But I mean, this overall, when you get to a live rock and Ledbetter, it's just a strange show. It has some high points, some kind of meh moments that are easy to gloss over. And yeah, I don't think it's like that big top dog show that sometimes you could get from Amsterdam. I just don't think it has that quality. I think maybe in the moment, a lot of people there were having a great time and felt really good about things, but on bootleg, it doesn't translate as well. And I think maybe we can kind of simplify it down to that the whole beginning of 2018 is due to Ed's vocals not being at 100%.
Yeah, you're gonna, and you know that I'm always a fan about being fair with the people that were at the show, but I couldn't engage with it. It was hard for me. I don't think the recording makes justice because I've heard a lot of people like say incredible stories about the show. But yeah, it was just it was hard for me to engage with the show, and it was this sense of shock too because it took me back to those years when you're like, oh, they're not playing that long anymore, and instead of like you were saying, instead of accepting that maybe this is a common step for a band that is aging, you immediately as a fan you start to think that maybe there's something wrong or health issues and stuff like that that gladly we never had to deal with. But it felt strange, it felt disconnected for me because you're so used to that combination to have 2 long encores around that time, that having kind of like 1.5, even though that is way beyond average of what the bands play right now, it's kind of shocking. So it didn't glue. It didn't glue at all.
Yeah. That's just the nature. Some are just all time shows, but not all of them can be. And, we all have nights where we're not 100% ourselves, and that's how you deal with it. Sometimes you get through it, and sometimes you get by it. I think they might have just gotten by on this one. All right. Well, that'll lead to the portion of the show where we have to either repeat what we just said or make it sound better than perhaps we enjoyed the show. So, 3 moments. You can find 3 from this. I think you can find 3, but let's see. What do you got?
Oh man, this is gonna be interesting. A standout for me is Untitled and MFC. I don't know how to rank them 2 or 3, but that section is really really cool. And you know what? The other one that I thought that it was just unique because it was kind of like a complete different atmosphere what this show was bringing to me, and I felt engaged listening. It was B Girl. B Girl is going to be my number one for this week.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, get a little story beforehand, get Ed's kind of attachment and story with his daughter. Yeah. All right. I'll buy it. I am going to put those two songs as a combo together, but I will say that my number 3 is going to be Review, and number 2 is going to be Inside Job, and the combo is going to be my number 1. Untitled into MFC will be my number 1. I think that one was a really, really strong point in the show. And now for maybe the less positive reaction on this. So it'll be tough. I don't want to be too cruel to it, but let's see. You're never too cruel to shows like this. So what do you got?
Yeah, I'm sorry if my opinion is going to disappoint to the people that went to the show, but I just couldn't connect with it. I really tried, give it a couple listens, but I found myself very disengaged. The band was struggling. There was something going on for sure, and I don't know. I'm sitting very comfortably in a 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 7 on this. I don't think I'll recommend this as listening material to anybody, but I also don't think it got horrible. I don't think it got to the point where I'm like, oh, I'll never listen to this again. If it comes on, it comes on. I don't think I'll choose to, but I definitely won't pick this one up out of the lineup for sure. I think all shows kind of have some moments to go back on. And maybe I'll pick out like, hey, they did that little thing with Green Disease or the Untitled change in lyrics or something like that. But that's probably it. There's probably not much else to really dissect out of it. So I'm at a 7. I would love to hear what people have to say that's positive about the show, why they felt like they needed to vote for it. I know Alex, I think, was somebody that said he thought it was an underrated gem. So, yeah, let us know. And we'll listen. I think that usually when we do our ratings, it's somebody else's rating that was there that got to experience it that is way more impactful than ours. We can only do so much with our microphones. You know what I mean? So, all right. Well, this week was a fan selected episode. And like we said, I think all of them from this point forward are going to be fan selected. And for next week's episode, you really didn't have to do too much hard work because, well, it was either one or the other. Ohana regular or Ohana encore. And we'd already done Ohana Encore Night 2. So it'd be the first show of the Encore. I think that was the one with Sweet Lou. And that's good enough for us to talk about because that will be the episode for next week. So getting into Gigaton era, post-COVID era, that'll be fun. I think we'll kind of talk about the mess everybody was in with COVID and how Gigaton, it took so long and the waiting just led up to these moments. And yeah, so we'll have a lot to discuss there. And as we go on, we don't have much left from the Chronology series. We have 5 more episodes left, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We will say that 24 is definitely getting recorded in a car because that one, I think, if we're going to be at Wrigley, then we're going to record a Wrigley episode. So that one you guys won't have to choose from. But 22, there's a lot to choose from 22 that we haven't done yet. There is a 22 one that we're going to do really early in September. If anybody knows me, I think you guys might know which one that is, but won't reveal that at this moment. And 23, not a lot of options. 25, not a lot of options. So yeah, that's where we stay, especially 25, not a lot of options because we've done 5 of them.
Right.
23, we at least have only done like 3. So, yeah, I mean, this is coming close to the end here, coming to more familiar stuff that feels like yesterday rather than yesteryear. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this, and I hope that this story all comes full circle at the end. And then afterwards, I think we're going to have some plans where we go in the coming months and how we treat it. I think we will try new things. Things will be a little bit different because why not? Maybe get some different people involved in different ways where we've been thinking about ideas like that. So keep all that in mind and know that we're not just being complacent at all with things after this. So, all right. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, we appreciate you guys that are spending time out of your day on either your ride to work or at home or at the gym, wherever it may be that you listen to your podcast. We appreciate that you're spending time with us. And hell, we hope at some point we can spend time with you guys as well. Maybe at a show, maybe you decide if you're in the Midwest, you want to come and join the Live on Four Balls little trip there where we can meet you at a ballpark. That would be nice. You just send over a DM and we can work something out probably, but we'll see. But, if you can't do that, then maybe the best we can do right now is just subscribe to our podcast on any podcast platform. Hopefully, it could be YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your pods. Do it. Help us out. And if you're over there as well and they give you an option to, I don't know, leave a comment or leave a rating, you can do that. That'll help us out too. Apple's been kind of dry with new comments recently. So if you want to leave a comment over there, that will be super, super helpful. So that's all we got. That's the last thing we'll say for this episode is this may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, miss you already, miss you always. So we're going into the 2020s now. And again, more recent. So everybody can kind of have some bias towards it and remember what stories they had and where they were at the show a little bit more easily. And yeah, we'll just keep working until we get to the end of the Chronology series. That will be a sad day because we've really, really enjoyed doing this a lot. So with that being said, next week we will see you on the pod.
See you next week.